Islands of Adventure. They have a lot of dark rides I periodically ride over and over again whenever I go here, but there's one in particular that I proactively avoid just because of how terrible it is. It's a vile, terrifying attraction that I wouldn't subject anyone to experience, let alone children, because this is a family attraction. It's a creepy ride that's haunted by a slanted-eyed feline that I can only describe as a giant cat in a hat. That is also played by Mike Myers.
Who is this? Oh.
That's my mom.
Awkward.
Oh, the Cat in the Hat ride at Universal. I really do not like this thing. It's such a disgraceful dark ride that I don't even know how it even got built. Who looked at this attraction, looked at the animatronics, and looked at the overall experience and said, yeah, this is all fine, let's give it the go-ahead. Maybe I'm being a little harsh by saying that this ride is the worst attraction ever and you can't get any enjoyment out of it, because that's certainly not the case. After all, It's a Small World does exist. But I do say if you ride this thing with a great group of friends, then you can have a good time. Because this ride is so bad that it's good. It is a fun ride to laugh and point at. It's honestly astounding how every single animatronic on this ride looks horrifying. Every single one. None of them look good. Neither does the set pieces. They look pretty cheap. And again, I don't understand how Universal they fumbled so hard with this ride. Because if you compare the Cat in the Hat ride to the rest of Seuss Landing, it actually looks pretty good. Now, I'll admit, the first time I saw Seuss Landing, it took a little bit of time for me to warm up to it. Before, I always thought that, Universal, they should get rid of Seuss Landing and put something else in its place. I mean, the land itself, I always thought it was too weird. It looks like somebody designed this land by taking a bunch of LSD and then tried redrawing everything they saw from memory. But now that I'm older and I've been to islands a lot more, I've grown an appreciation for Seuss Landing. The art style, it's grown on me. I like it a lot more now than when I was a kid. And today I would actually prefer if Universal would keep Seuss Landing as opposed to taking it out. As long as Universal, they keep the land looking fresh, they add a new coat of paint every now and then, I think this land could last here for many generations to come. However, there is just one issue that throws a monkey wrench into Seuss Landing's tenure, that being the rides. The rides here suck. Cat in the Hat is the anchor attraction here. This ride is supposed to be the e-ticket for Seuss Landing, and it is definitely not that. Once you remove Cat in the Hat from the equation, you realize that all the land really has to offer is a bunch of flat rides. One Fish, Two Fish, the Carousel, Seuss Trolley, great standard B and C ticket rides, but can they really support the entirety of Seuss Landing as a whole? Nah, I don't think so. Seuss Landing, they need a big e-ticket attraction to justify the land's existence. Because if they don't have an e-ticket, there's not much of a reason to keep this land, and it would be in Universal's best interest to demolish this land sometime down the line so they can make room for a different attraction or land. Will this happen anytime soon? Actually, no. Because the problems with the Cat in the Hat ride hasn't been a recent issue, it's an ongoing one. This ride has always been terrible, ever since it opened back in 1999. Can you tell that this was one of the first rides where Universal incorporated animatronics? For the longest time, screen-based attractions were Universal's bread and butter. They weren't experts in the animatronic field. Yes, they dabbled with it when they developed attractions like Jaws the Ride, but Jaws isn't a one-for-one comparison to Cat in the Hat. For one, Jaws, they didn't exactly rely on animatronics, but rather opposable figures. Essentially, Bruce, the shark animatronic, was more or less a large statue that was directed by a conveyor belt. Until the ride actually got to its climax, most of the sharks that you saw during the boat ride were nothing more than inanimate objects that were propelled across the water. One of the only advanced animatronics that you saw was at the finale, where the shark bites down on the cable. It was a great effect, but it wasn't reliable. Universal, they clearly still had a long way to go to perfect their animatronics, and you think that with Cat in the Hat they would have learned how to make them better, but they didn't. The animatronics in Cat in the Hat are a major step down from Jaws. Honestly, I don't even know how they messed up this bad with Cat in the Hat. These animatronics, visually, don't look anything like the original source material. They are beyond disgusting. For some reason, each and every Cat in the Hat animatronic, they look like a living corpse. And they don't look like the same corpse either. Who knows what was happening at Universal Creative, but it seems like they had 3 different models for the Cat in the Hat, and they didn't know which one they should choose. So they just did all of them. Each and every one of the Cat in the Hats, they look slightly different from the other. So there's no consistency with appearance. To show you what I'm talking about, let's do a nice play-by-play of the ride itself. Once you board your couch vehicle and you begin your journey, you're immediately greeted by the Cat in the Hat. He barges through the door with umbrella and hat in hand while giving you a subtle wink. And for some reason, his eyes are sunken in. It's very strange. Why do Universal make him look like this? Your eyes are supposed to create a first impression. They're supposed to be inviting. But these sunken eyes look dark and his pupils keep bouncing back and forth. Kind of like one of those old-fashioned cat clocks. This all just gives off a sinister vibe, and the way he walks into the house, he appears drunk. He can barely stand upon his own 2 legs. If I saw this hammered cat come into my house, I would think that he was a PDF file, and I would grab Daddy's shotgun. If only the Cat in the Hat animatronics got better as the ride progressed, but no, they just keep getting worse. The balancing cat appears to have a lot of loose skin sagging down, and his eyes are even darker and more sunken than before. And then there's the Cat in the Hat spinning in the spiral. This one, it's not an animatronic, it's a figure, but his eyes, instead of being sunken in and dark, they're now front and center, washed out and pale. So now instead of black child eyes, you now have ghost eyes. And the mouths on all of these animatronics, they're stilted. You can see the cat's tongue peering out of its mouth, but it's frozen, it doesn't move. Sometimes, however, the mouth does attempt to jitter up and down because there is a servo motor in the bottom lip. That way the animatronic can flex its flesh, so it can attempt to mimic speech. It doesn't work to great effect, though. It's very uncanny. The only thing worse than the Cat in the Hat animatronics are the Thing 1 and Thing 2 animatronics. These guys are actual nightmare fuel. They don't remotely look like the characters from the book. Witness Thing 1 and Thing 2's movements when they come out of the box. They're jarring, they're short-ranged. They don't run naturally like a normal person. And their facial structure is hideous. Universal, I know you're the horror company, but you didn't need to make Thing 1 and Thing 2 look like a shortened version of the girl from The Grudge. And again, with the eyes, how, Universal? How are you so bad at getting this right? You either make the eyes sunken and dark, or bright and washed out. It looks like you took their eyes and doused them in bleach. Universal, just get a Sharpie and draw the pupils in. They don't have to look like mannequins that are left out in the sun all day. I will say, though, it is kind of funny that Thing 1 and Thing 2, all they do throughout the ride is recreate scenes from classic horror movies. Like, don't tell me you're not trying to imitate Poltergeist right here, or Scary Movie over here. I could go on, but I think you get the point. This is a dumpy attraction that was executed poorly, and Universal should be ashamed of themselves. Shame on you, Universal. I'm so disappointed. You could have done better. I know you could have done better. Seuss Landing proves that you could have done better. You did the aesthetics of the land so well, but you put no time or care into the actual ride of the land. So how can Universal rectify this? How can they fix the Cat in the Hat so it's actually up to the new Universal standard? Well, let me just be clear with what I think. The Cat in the Hat ride, it's not a fixer-upper. It's a tear-downer. It's not enough to replace the old animatronics and upgrade the set pieces. No, the entire Cat in the Hat ride needs to be gutted and replaced. Plus, a lot of the issues with the Cat in the Hat ride don't just stem from the animatronics, but also the ride system itself. The Couchmobile for the Cat in the Hat ride, it breaks down a lot. No joke, one time when I was riding this thing, I was sitting in the vehicle and it came to a complete stop halfway through the ride. I was confused, I didn't know what was going on. And then suddenly an employee hopped on the intercom and shouted, "Passenger, put your arms and legs inside the vehicle." Then again, 2 minutes later, the employee screams, "Passenger, put your arms and legs inside the vehicle." I was getting annoyed. Why wasn't the ride going? Why couldn't this one guest follow the instructions? And then suddenly, the employee on the intercom, he starts describing me. Apparently, I was the jerk who didn't have their arms and legs inside the vehicle. And trust me, I can assure you that my arms and legs, they were inside the vehicle. So I don't know what the employee was talking about. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but apparently it had to be something, because the ride would not start for another 5 minutes. And in that time, I didn't do anything, I didn't change my position, so I guess the problem just fixed itself. I ended up asking an employee what happened when I got off the ride, and they couldn't provide me an answer. They just said this happens all the time. Moral of the story, the animatronics aren't the only thing wrong with this ride, it's also the ride system itself. The attraction, it breaks constantly. This wasn't the first time this happened to me. And something else I didn't even realize, apparently the Cat in the Hat ride, it's supposed to spin. Yes, this ride has a spinning feature, but it hasn't been working in years. Universal, how can you be so incompetent at upkeeping this attraction? The ride, it breaks down constantly, most of the features do not work, and the animatronics are horrifying. And above all else, it just looks cheap. Here's what I'm thinking, Universal. How about you rip out the entire ride and replace it with a trackless dark ride? Something in the style of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That would actually salvage this thing. Give it all new animatronics, give it a new look, replace it with the ride system that's tried and true, and bada bing bada boom, that's how you fix the Cat in the Hat. However, this would not be a cheap endeavor. For one, if Universal, they did make the Cat in the Hat in the same style as Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, they would have to extend the footprint of the ride building, because the current show building for the Cat in the Hat, it's not too big. It's only 3,100 square meters, compared to Mickey and Minnie's, which is nearly double that size. Theoretically, Universal, they can extend the former show building, it's just gonna be a little pricey. But at the end of the day, it's all gonna come down to opportunity cost. Would it be in Universal's best interest to funnel a bunch of capital into a revitalization of an existing attraction, or would it be better for Universal to take out the Cat in the Hat and replace it with a different IP? However, if Universal does that, who's to say they won't take out the rest of Seuss Landing as well? Because if they take out the Cat in the Hat, their anchor attraction will be gone, so there wouldn't be much justification for this entire land to be here. It's that compound decision making that's stunting this ride's future development. Do they want to fix this ride? Do they want to take it out? Do they want to take out the rest of Seuss Landing? It's a whole ordeal. Preferably, Universal, they should go for the trackless dark ride approach. That way, this ride, it will no longer look like an extension to Halloween Horror Nights, and it will finally give Universal a family attraction that is suitable for all ages. It's perfect, Universal, I'm giving you all this great advice, and it doesn't seem like you're listening. So please, I'm asking you, can you do something with the Cat in the Hat ride? Because if you keep the existing ride the way it is, eventually it's going to get more and more dilapidated until it looks completely like the Mike Myers version of the Cat in the Hat. And trust me, you do not want that. That movie is a sloppy, nasty mess, despite the few hilarious jokes.
This is amazing! It's like a ride in an amusement park!
You mean like at Universal Studios? Cha-ching. Whoa!